Hi, everyone. I'm David Aragona, and this is the October 6th edition of Horses to Watch, where we carefully analyze some trips from the last week, looking for horses that might have encountered adversity and could be worth betting back when they run in the future. This week, we got four races to talk about from last week at Belmont Park, a couple from their Thursday card, one from Friday, and one of the stakes that they ran last Saturday on their day of Breeders' Cup preps. Let's begin, though, with those two races from last Thursday, September 30th, beginning with race two. This is a New York bred maiden claiming $40,000 the claiming tag, going 6 furlongs on the inner turf. Let's break these horses from the gate, and we're going to check out just a nightmare trip for the number 5 New York Supreme. And you can start to see things start to go wrong right from the start. It's a little hard to see her right here. She's in that yellow cap, the number 5 with the blue silks, and you'll see right there the jockey's kind of sitting down in the stirrups. That chestnut filly, he's trying to get her back off the pace because she's in a really tight spot there. And once she gets back into this about third flight of runners, you can see that she's just refusing to settle under Joel Rosario. New York Supreme is a filly that in her prior starts likes to show early speed, and she is just reacting really badly to being restrained this far off the pace. You can see that she wants to run up and contest the pace, go up with the leaders, but she's too far back to do that. And Joel is a rider that tries to get horses to settle when they counter adversity at the starts. He doesn't want her to do too much in the early portion of the race, but what ended up happening is that she just fought him for about 3 furlongs of this race. And by the time we get to the top of the stretch, she is just going to be completely empty. A horse cannot fight their rider like that for the beginning of a race and have anything left to kick home in the stretch. You can see Joel's barely asking her for anything here. He's just basically easing her into the wire. This is a race that I would just draw a line through for New York Supreme. She had previously been in much better form. She actually had a real trip 3 back. I think I actually did her trip on this show when she ran at Saratoga. She got a really wide trip. It's about 6 wide on that turf course at Saratoga, going 5.5 furlongs. And now this time, again, a trip that just didn't work out at all, given that trouble that she had at the start. So she finished pretty far back here. I think she wound up in 10th place. But like I said, this is a race that I would just draw a line through and give her a shot next time, because she doesn't usually show gait issues. She just broke slowly this time. Things went wrong from there. Moving on to another race from that Thursday card, September 30th at Belmont Park. This is race 4, claiming 40,000 at 1.16 miles on the turf course. Let's break these horses from the gate, and I want to focus on the number 9, Blue Atlas, who you will see right at the start breaks behind the field, just is about a step slow away from the gate, throws her head a little bit, and she winds up spotting this field about 2 lengths in the opening strides, and she's going to settle at the back of the pack here. Now, do note, this is a race that featured a honest pace for the distance, and it is one that is dominated by horses that come from off the pace, so that helped Blue Atlas. But I don't think her rider, Kendra Carmouche, wanted her to be this far off the pace in the early going, because she does run a winning race here, and you're going to see she actually encounters more trouble late in the race. She is a horse who had been off form coming into this. She had come off a layoff at Saratoga, had not run that well in 2 starts up there, but getting back to Belmont, it really seemed to suit her here because she put in a much improved effort in this $40,000 claimer. And you can see she's now regained contact with the pack and is racing towards the back of the pack. The fractions that are going up, they're not terribly fast, but like I said, this is a race that comes apart a little bit. The horse that was the heavy favorite in this race, the number 8 Candy Flower, was first off the claim for Michelle Nevin and just didn't really seem to hold the form that she had in her prior start for Mike Maker. So that brings the entire field together at the end when those leaders don't really finish off the race. And you can see now the number 9 Blue Atlas, who is still in last, but now moving to the outside. She's starting to advance into a contending position, but her rider, Kendra Carmouche, is going to try to save some ground here, which typically is the right thing to do on the turf, but he's going to wind up riding her into some trouble here because the field just kind of bunches up and there's nowhere for her to find a seam to come on through. Briefly, it looks like she might have some running room here, but that hole closes up and she's just going to find herself in behind tiring runners in a pocket here, nowhere to go. He's going to have to pump on the brakes, switch her to the outside, and she's actually finishing best of all at the end, but she's only able to finish 5th in this race because of that trouble having to pause in mid-stretch and angle out, losing some momentum. She was unable to win this race, and given the trouble at the start and the trouble in mid-stretch, it feels like she probably would have won if she had gotten a clean trip, so it feels like one for Horacio de Paz that is back in good form right now and should be competitive at this level when she returns in her next start. Let's fast forward to a race from Friday's card at Belmont Park. This is October 1st. It's race 7 from that day. Optional claiming 80,000, non-winners of 2 other than is the allowance condition, going 6 furlongs on the dirt course. Let's break these runners from the gate and focus on the number 8 drafted. You're going to see another horse break really slowly in here. That's the number 2, Always Sunshine. He's one that you might want to keep an eye on as well. But I want to focus on drafted primarily in this replay. He's that gray horse that you see highlighted right there. He breaks with the field, but is going to be taken to the back of the pack in the early going. He is a horse for trainer David Duggan, who is coming off a layoff here, has some classy running lines in the past that faced stakes company a bunch of times, but he was coming off the layoff here and racing for that $80,000 optional tag. And I do want to know where he is in the early portion of this race, all the way back in last, because this is a race that pretty much holds together on the front end. The number 4 New Bomb and the number 7 Cost Basis are the 2 that are going to fight it out to the wire, and they are first and second right now, setting what is a pretty moderate pace. And there you see drafted under Dylan Davis all the way at the back of the pack. And as they come to the quarter pole here, you could see drafted does have some run, and he's starting to advance nicely and pick up momentum for Dylan Davis, but kind of like the race we just watched with Blue Atlas, he's going to find himself in a pocket behind runners with nowhere to go, and you see his momentum just get stymied there as he's in behind tiring runners. Dylan can't ride him at all. He's having to angle and alter course to the outside, and he leaves the screen right here as you see those 2 horses that were on the front end battled out to the wire. But as they cross the finish line, notice the drafted just misses third by a nose. For a horse that lost momentum at the top of the stretch and was against a slow pace, I think he finished really well to nearly get third in this race. He actually wound up 5th, but I think there's an argument that drafted would have won this race with a more fair pace situation, and if he hadn't encountered that trouble in mid-stretch. So he's one that did appear to return in top form. He had been working well, reportedly, off this layoff for David Duggan, and I think he'll do a lot better when he returns at a similar level next time out. Let's finish things up with a race from Belmont's Saturday card where they ran 3 graded stakes races. We're going to talk about one of those, the 9th race from that Saturday, October 2nd card. It is the Belmont Turf Sprint Invitational, a grade 3 event for older horses going 6 furlongs on the turf. Let's break these runners from the gate. And if you watched my preview of this race with Craig Milkowski from last week, you'll know that I liked the number 4 by Land and Sea in this race, and he just does not get the right trip at all. I'm not really sure what the plan was here, but you can see his rider, Jose Ortiz, is kind of restraining him coming away from the gate, despite the fact that he looked like one of the horses that could be forwardly placed or potentially even on the lead in this race. Jose just shows no intention to go to the front, and Byland and Sea was coming off a layoff here with blinkers, and he was pretty eager, and you could see even prior to the race, he was pretty keyed up and wanted to show speed, but for whatever reason, his rider or the connections had no intention of letting him show that early aggression or get out that early speed, and you could see coming around the far turn here, he is tugging at Jose Ortiz, he wants to go, the rider's not letting him do any running, now he's in traffic in between horses towards the back of the pack, and as they come to the quarter pole, things are just going to get worse for Byland and Sea, because the entire field's coming together, and now is when Jose wants them to do some running, but there's nowhere to go because he's locked in and behind horses. Horses do his inside and his outside. He's their horse tiring in his face now, so he has to come out of that spot, angle around to the outside. He's going to finish last in this race, but it's a pretty close last, and he's actually picking up some momentum as they cross the wire here, but he was just left with too much to do, and losing that momentum at the top of the stretch, it really cost him in the end. But the real error here was the fact that his connections didn't realize that this is a horse that could have been on the lead, and you would have noticed that the number 3, Arrest Me Red, was the horse that was sent to the front end, and he just wired this field on the lead the entire way. That's the kind of trip that By Land and Sea should have gotten, but it didn't work out that way because of the tactics that were employed. So By Land and Sea came off the layoff here, hadn't been seen him for about 11 months coming into this race. He clearly is better than this, and I think he'll do better next time. He's not a horse that has to be in turf sprints. He can go as far as a mile, so there are many options for where they can run him next time, but he's one that I would anticipate will do much better when he returns in his subsequent start. So those are all the horses to watch for this week. Remember, if you want to follow these horses moving forward, you can add them to your horse watch on dref.com. Just add them to a list, and you will get email notifications when these horses run back in the future. Thanks for tuning in this week, and make sure to catch future episodes of Horses to Watch on upcoming Wednesdays.